Alright. Turns out I am here this morning. Sarah's still getting stuff ready to rip to go out to the coast, so I got time to come in here with Adventure Dog and get some stuff done to stay out of her way. Stay out of her way. Now, hopefully everybody's rocking it out today. Hopefully every single person is alive and well and healthy and back with us today. Now, here we go. Man, oh man. There's always a million things I could talk about when you flick this thing to record. I'm just getting my second coffee in me, so I'm probably safe. It's been a bizarre ride, this whole ride. Meeting people, associating with people, swapping back and forth with people. Some good, some bad. Some came across as good in the beginning. Turns out they were extremely bad. The shit you learn, man. The shit you learn as you watch the human herd and learn from them. It's crazy what people do to each other. I don't get it myself. Especially when it comes to truth. Truth on this topic, too. There's so many characters that have been involved in this topic for so many years. And so many of them just aren't honest, and it's really weird. I wonder why. You know what I mean? I wonder why. It's such a large scale, too. It's on such a large scale, the deception, when it comes to this topic, with the majority, I'm going to say almost, not all, but the majority of the characters that everybody's been familiar with over the years when it comes to this topic. Yeah, say it as politely as I can, easily understandable as I can, they're fucked up. They're very fucked up individuals. It's pretty alarming. Especially once you find out the true nasty details behind the scenes. It's just like, holy shit. How did you get so fucked up? It's a lot of these people. I just got this bad taste in my mouth after having another lengthy conversation with somebody who's solid as granite. Thing is, I don't ask about these details. I don't ask about details about anybody or anything. It just comes my way. But my gut's always right. I guess that's what I'm trying to get across to everybody is your gut is always right. Right? And if you deviate even the slightest away from your gut, you pay. In a way. Well, I think you probably pay more if you are not in tune with your gut instincts altogether. That's when you pay. That's when you really get it. But if your gut's screaming or murmuring, giving you a low growl, but you go in that direction anyway for a bit, and then you realize, oh shit, Tommy was right, I shouldn't have went in that direction with those people or that person or whatever, then you can bail out in time. Anyway, I'm just saying, there's nothing, I'm not interested in people's drama, but what I'm telling you guys is go with your gut when it comes to any topic or any human being anywhere. If you have a gut feeling about somebody, especially when it comes to this topic online, prolific people, your gut's right. Okay? So that's probably the safer way to do it. If you have a bad feeling, something's up about somebody, without listening to anybody else trying to direct you in that direction of feeling sour or negative towards somebody, when it comes to this topic, prolific online, if your gut's warning you, your gut's right. All right, that's all I'm passing on. Your gut's right. Now, shall we hear from Bobby? I got my phone in front of me, cracked up, and let's hear from some people first. This is a lengthy lineup as usual. What do we got? I'm gonna mark this as red. Fresh off the press. Another encounter sending in is the title of this email. Steve, I live in southeastern Kentucky, surrounded by the Daniel Boone National Forest. Sounds familiar. Didn't we just read this? A few weeks ago, I couldn't sleep, so I got up and went outside to sit in my rocker on the porch, and it was about 2:30-ish. I was listening to some music when I heard a large branch crack on the other side of the driveway in the trees. I turned off the music and was looking towards the sound in the tree line. About then, the brush started shaking violently. It then sounded like hundreds of pebbles started hitting the tarp, covering my boat that is 25 feet to my left and hitting the siding of my house. I was getting a bit concerned at this time, so I got up from the rocker, reached inside the house, and grabbed my .45-70 and sat back down on the rocker. I guess I figured if I'd get charged, I'm getting a few rounds off. Then I heard the first whoop from the trees on my left where the pebbles came from, and an answering whoop from the trees in front of me, and could hear something moving rapidly through the brush. Then another whoop from behind my neighbor's house on my right, where the terrain drops down to a smallish pond and a creek. There were a few more whoops. It seemed as though they were moving away fast. I then remembered the phone and turned it on video in hopes of picking up the whoops, but they were ways away by this time. I attached the pictures for reference of where the shit was happening. I tried to attach the 28-second video, but it kept telling me it was too big of a file. Todd. All right. So just got a picture of his house, the driveway, the bushes. Gotcha, man. I won't share your home online. We don't need to do that. But there you go. Well, you're aware of all the signs, right? You're aware of the signs. At this stage of the game, for anybody who's been following everybody, not following me, but when you come here, you follow everybody, right, that comes here. So at this stage of the game, with the knowledge that's being shared, it shouldn't be too hard to figure out the signs now, right? Especially for rural living. And especially now that we are well aware that they can be anywhere, anytime. That's not even an argument for anyone. Anywhere at any time. That is a fact. Now, thanks for sending that in, man. You know the routine by now. If you're not looking forward to any more interactions there, just put some IR lights all around your place, shining out to all the suspect areas. Light her up. Politely tell them to leave you alone. Here's another title. A great piece of info for our coffee table. All right. I'm all over it. Good morning, Steve. I thought you and the others would enjoy seeing this. I'm from outside of Chicago. I wrote you prior about my sightings. Anyways, my cousin from southern Indiana sent these two papers called Bigfoot Fun Fact for Kids. And the other side, where all the facts are the same, or some facts, you could say, is drawing like coloring, and they're hitting this out in school. I remember hearing today or yesterday that you can't open up Google Pictures, so I'm going to try to send it as an attachment and as screenshots too. Steve, this is my 5-year-old nephew. Just said for me to tell you that this is a great start for kids. Keep up the great work and spreading knowledge to the masses. I can tell we are slowly winning the game of tug of war. Stay safe, man. Stay safe and stay Steve. Quote, not a typo, just meaning like stay the way you are. There's no problem there, man. I'm stuck this way. So what do we got? It came through. Bigfoot Fun Facts for Kids. Let's read this. That's the first one right there. Is that focusing? Okay, that's the first piece of the pamphlet. And how do I get the other one? Hold on a minute. Ah, shit. Hold on a minute, you guys. Now here is the coloring book thing. Hold on. It'll focus. I think. Come on. Seriously? Come on, focus. There we go. There's the coloring book image. Unfortunately, it has a blatant monkey or gorilla head on it, which is absolutely misleading. That's what my brain says to say out loud right off the word go. That color drawing is absolutely misleading. So let's read what they're going to say. Where does the name Bigfoot come from is the question mark. The Bigfoot name comes from the Bigfoot's large bipedal size. Some people call Bigfoot Sasquatch. The British explorer David Thompson is sometimes considered the first person to discover Bigfoot footprints in 1811. Well, that's not correct because Bigfoot footprints were around way before him, discovered by people that lived here. What does Bigfoot look like? Some Bigfoot sightings report a large hairy creature, while others report a creature with more human-like features. That's a good thing to have in there. Where does Bigfoot live? The Bigfoot or Sasquatch is a mysterious creature that is said to live in forests all over the world. Bigfoot is frequently spotted in the Pacific Northwest, but Bigfoot has been reported to live all over North America. In Canada, Bigfoot has been spotted in British Columbia, Alberta, Ontario, and Quebec. In the United States, Bigfoot sightings have been reported in Northern California, Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Montana, Nevada, and Utah. All right, well, that entry could have been, and should have been, honestly saying, Bigfoot lives all over the world, every state, every province, every continent. Has Bigfoot ever been captured? No Bigfoots have been captured alive, but Bigfoots have been caught twice on film. The first time Bigfoot was on film was by Roger Patterson in '67. Do scientists believe in Bigfoot? Some scientists believe Bigfoot could exist, while others do not believe in the existence of Bigfoot. Grover Krantz is a Bigfoot researcher who has spent over 50 years studying Bigfoot evidence. What kinds of evidence is there for Bigfoot? There's no definitive evidence that Bigfoot exists. Whoa. Whoa. But there are various pieces of evidence that people have claimed support the Bigfoot legend. Legend, uh-oh. There's a penalty, and a second penalty in one paragraph. This evidence includes eyewitness accounts, videos, photos, Bigfoot footprints, and Bigfoot hair samples. How big is Bigfoot? One Bigfoot fact for kids: the Bigfoot sightings vary greatly in size. Sometimes Bigfoot reports describe a creature as being almost 8 feet tall, while other times people report Bigfoot as being only 4 or 5 feet tall. People who claim to have seen Bigfoot described it as large, bipedal creatures with enormous footprints that walks like a man. They say Bigfoot has a foul smell like a wet dog because of his thick fur. Does Bigfoot have a family tree? Some people believe that Bigfoot is a surviving specimen of Gigantopithecus, a Bigfoot that lived in Asia. Ooh, there's a serious red flag infraction. There's another penalty. How many strikes are we going to give him? Does Bigfoot make any noise? The ape-like creature. All right, out of the game. You just got flagged. You're out of the game. That for me? Now you're out of the game. But I'll read the last entry. The ape-like creature has been reported to make noises such as howls, screams, moans, grunts, whistles, and possibly a form of special language. Do you believe in Bigfoot? And there you go. I'm excited that the kids are excited that that's actually been made public, but I'm not excited that the children are being misled right out of the gate again and consistently and still, right? That's the wrong thing to pass to children today. I think. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm a firm believer in truth. And there was not too much. There was a lot of blatant, in-your-face misleading sentences right there to plant in the minds of young children who don't know any better. For me, that's wrong. Now people are going to probably feel a little threatened and insulted that I've got that attitude. Well, what would you do, Steve? Well, you know what I do. But it's a tough thing to do at this stage of the game with all of the generations of brainwashing and misleading that's gone down. So what would I do? Would I be a good person to break the news to children? I don't know. Because I would really, really, really have to figure how to go about that. I mean, if you could plant me on a stage in front of a high school or college school, I'd do it in a second. I would do it in a second. Young children, early grade school children, that is a tough one because I'm trying to picture, all the children that I know through all of my circle of friends, the kids here, they're on the program of the truth. They know the truth they know many truths. the majority of their friends all know too, so that's a good thing. But how do you bust this out to young children without scaring the shit out of them? I think I would probably tell them that there are people that are living on the planet that insist on not making any contact with us, because that's where I'd start stumbling, because I want to tell the kids the truth of everything, right? The truth of how they've been lied to, manipulated, malnourished, lied to, used as honeybees to make the honey for some bad actors, all sorts of shit, right? So yeah, what do? How would you do it? How would you guys do it? Tell you what, if any of you think you might have the answer, write it up. If any of you think it's for real, I mean a real good solid example of what that paper should probably have on it for early grade children. I think I'd probably pull it off if I had some time. I can't do it right now in 5 minutes, that's for sure. Because I just want to scream at all the children to be aware of a lot more of the lies than just this one, right? There you go. Am I excited? Sorry, I gotta be honest, I'm not. With that, not at all. We got the drawing is of an absolute chimpanzee or gorilla face, which is absolutely misleading right out of the gate. So that shouldn't have been delivered to those children. And many of those sentences and paragraphs in the paper were absolutely misleading and planting seeds of deception and lies in their little minds right now. So, there you go. Appreciate you sending that in. Big time, no. I'm glad that you sent that in. I'm glad I'm aware of that. And let's see if anybody out there has the time to think about what they would have shared instead to gently bring our next generation up to speed with absolute truth. Right? Now, who's next? You know, a lot of people are probably going to, but a lot of people are probably going to go, well, you know, it's a start. No, it's not. No, it's not a start. It's just like when people said about the forest injection, then they said, well, at least it should be able to do something to help to battle the virus. No, it didn't. No, it doesn't. There's no softening it up. There is no making it okay, even in a small fraction of an okay. There's not. It's not good. You can't justify it. You can't back it up in any way. You can't. That's my reply to the many people I'm sure that are saying, well, come on, at least they're doing something. No, they're not. They're continuing on with the lie with us, with that piece of paper and the drawing. There's nothing out of the... Okay, there you go. You got my point. Now, excuse me. This is titled, Is Using the Name of Jesus in Special Ops Toolbox of Weapons for Defense or Offense? Is using the name of Jesus in Special Ops Toolbox of Weapons for Defense or Offense? P.S. To clarify, praying for bad people, you ask. We are in a battle to save humanity, i.e. war against humankind. Hate the sin, not the person. The sin is the devil. Hope many get this. Okay, that's the second email that came in after the first. Steve, kind of just had a possible epiphany. If you think this is relevant to our community's search for truth, please ask the Roundtable of Knowledge Special Ops men if anyone has heard of using and or rebuking in the name of Jesus is one of their tools for combat, defense, or offense, etc. It's a good question. Not a typo, because I think what you started has come to this, i.e., all of us putting together our life experiences in search of truth, no matter how hard it is to conceive or swallow, with what mainstream scum in all our institutions labels anyone that discusses anything that gets close to the truth, especially the evil they're covering up. Ask our special ops / operators / frogmen / real life ninja badasses this. I think this will answer a lot of questions. Thanks again, sir, for sharing my East Texas Bigfoot face, my stories. This will answer a lot of questions if only one has heard of this used in special ops community, in battle, or in training. Many puzzle pieces are falling together, and it's downright scary. I've been following you since 2019. Keep it up, guys. Keep it up. The good guys are winning. Use my name, Brian Callahan from Texas. God bless all of y'all and everyone that crosses your mind, good or bad people. Remember, we are at war spiritually. I have to agree. I don't have to. It's not hard for me, but I agree absolutely. It's 100% a spiritual war going on, without a doubt. Without a doubt. We'll see. I don't know. I know of a couple of guys who fit that resume, so next time I talk to them, I'll see if I can get that out. See what they have to say. But you know what the real shitty deal is, though, for the last handful of years, if you've been following anything, watching closely, not too many of our brave ninja-style dudes have been out fighting for the good. Right? So I don't know if they'd be given those tools. We'll see. We'll find out. I'm not saying they intentionally weren't fighting for the good. I believe they were fighting for the good, but it turns out right now, Experiences from rural Maryland and southern Pennsylvania. Hello, Stephen. Thank you for all you do. My name is Angela, and I run a channel myself where within the last few months I've shared my experiences with the Sasquatch beings, both here in rural Maryland, where I live, and the Catoctin, Cotoctin mountains of southern PA. It all began a year or so ago during one of the many week-long visits I've made to my sister's home in Fairfield, PA. She lives at the very foothill of the mountains. Each time I'd visit her, I would hear the house being banged on, the orbs caught on night cam and in plain sight, changing rock formations almost every day in her yard, huge trees driven feet into her ground during winter, when the ground was solid, icy/cold. I've been with she and her husband as their house has been banged on multiple times. Orbs have been witnessed, damage done to her deck, and lawn destruction. The howling whistles and tree knocks, and yes, even cloaking I've witnessed there. After witnessing these events myself in person for over a year at a property, I began to have odd things happening at my residence in Carroll County, Maryland. Sykesville, to be exact. My property is in a rural area of Maryland next to Piney Run Lake and surrounded by acres of woods. It all started on my property about 2 months ago when I heard loud banging on my garage door. Then a month ago, I heard very familiar vocals coming from the woods and Piney Run Lake area. During this same time, I came out of my house one morning to find a 58-inch staff driven 5 inches into my yard. It was a 2-inch thick stick/staff, and had no signs of being driven into the ground by a hammer, etc. There were no storms that night before, heavy winds. I've lived at the property for over 20 years, and this has never happened before. Did I read this? It's sounding familiar. The staff/stick that was driven 5 inches into my ground was a different type of wood. I did read this. Shit. Sorry, you guys. Sorry. Read it. My bad. That it was in here as not read. How does that frickin' happen so often? All right, well, I'm going into another one. Now I've got a little nervous here of not pre-reading. Well, I never pre-read, right? All right. This next one is titled Puzzle Pieces. You'll want to read this before deciding to share or not. No time. We're going in. Hey, Steve, blessings on yours and Sarah's day. Norwegian grandma here again. Excuse me. I've only been listening to your channel for a few months. Somehow you just popped up in my feed one day. I had listened to Buckeye. I don't promote other channels I'm not familiar with. I'd listened to Slash a couple times. She was just in my feed too. It was funny because the subject of Bigfoot hadn't been in my mind for a few years. There's a long bike trail I ride where someone put one of those 8-foot plywood cutouts in the woods about 100 feet off the trail. It always makes me look. The channel is like you in that she reads people's stories and isn't a researcher. You'll know in a bit why I said read this first. You might decide to skip a paragraph or two if you read this online at all, although if it helps someone, it's okay to read too. I've spoken publicly at women's conferences that do with healing of the heart. If you don't want to read it, just count it as a good brain worm. In my first email, I told the end of a dream I had that a sabe waved back at me through the window, and it occurred to me that I hadn't been scared during any of my 3 encounters. I don't know if you saw it, but I sent you a video from another channel about my theories surrounding a car's backup camera pic. Okay, in order to surmise my idea about no fear and your discussion with Nino video number 1, I haven't got to the other 2 yet. I know Nino's channel and I've listened to him and 107. Their topics are more of what I dig for. This state of our world is a major action point for me as well as a major prayer point. Finally, I'll spit it out. When I was born, I believe God had his hand on me in preparation for my adult ministry. Since I began to talk, I asked my mom about God and his angels, and it freaked her out because they didn't really have a relationship with Jesus. They knew there was a God, creator, but Mom and Dad didn't participate in relationship with him. Therefore, I didn't talk about him. Mom was freaked out to the point that she said she'd go put her hand on me while I was asleep to make sure I was still breathing. She thought God was going to take me away. I was an only girl, as I said in email number 1. Fast forward to 7 years old, a relative began abusing me. Each time as he violated me, he whispered to me that I needed to keep my mouth shut or he'd kill my family. I believed that a person that caused me such pain would do what he said. As I got older, he'd tell me I was ugly and would be unwanted by males and wouldn't ever have a boyfriend, and I believed him. Although as I look at my childhood pics, I know he was lying. That's what Satan does, he lies. I found peace outdoors. I loved picking apples in our orchard, blueberries in the woods with my one grandma, and mushrooms with my Norwegian grandmom. I rode my horse and biked a lot when I was done with chores. I didn't think a lot about God as a teen, only when the Baptist kids would ask me if I was saved. One day, with one leg in my pants in the locker room, about 4 of them surrounded me and asked again if I was saved. I didn't know what they meant. I said, "What, from you?" Brutal. In college, I met some people who became good friends, and I saw something different in them. The Holy Spirit of God. I was so happy that they were genuinely interested in me as a person. One day, I had a profound experience with God, all alone on one of my 3 to 4 day a week, 30-mile bike rides. I just knew how much God loved me and had been giving me strength and grit through my childhood violence. He showed me how he was with me that day at 14 when I told my oppressor that it ended then and there, or he'd meet the wrath of my father and 5 brothers. Soon after, I met my husband, and he was a good friend for about 3 years and asked me to marry him on our first and only date to that point. He said he was wearing me down first. I teased him that he was just cheap. I was shocked, but knew in my heart it was God's plan. I told him that, as we had talked about so many times, that I planned to serve God. I knew it was his plan too. Before we ever made vows to each other, we stood in my living room one evening and made vows before God to keep ourselves positioned to serve him. We kept ourselves out of debt and didn't buy a house, so when God said go, we go. We've served God over the U.S. and missionaries to the world. Our longest time was living in India. Our children were raised with a rich life of adventure and service. We now pastor a church in Michigan. When we came back to the States after India, we would no longer renew our visas. That's another story involving politics on their part and too many church plants and conversations and conversions on our part. Their political parties are the Hindu and Muslims. They didn't want Christian competition. We were basically homeless with 3 kids and no possessions. Our things were still in India because we thought we were just home on furlough to see family and renew visas. Our friends allowed us to stay in a camper in their yard until we got on our feet. It was a squeeze, but we were used to it. We used a bathroom inside the house near the back door. The camper sat away from the house about 125 feet. One night I'd been reading till my family were all asleep. I went in to take a shower and my friend had a guest. She introduced me, then I made myself scarce. Took my shower and went out. As I rounded the corner of the house, I stopped dead in my tracks. On top of the camper was a huge creature. It stood about 12 to 14 feet tall. It looked like a giant bird and human hybrid. It was pitch black and seemed to be sucking more darkness up from this night sky. It had a long beak and curved down at the end, and long talons, and on its feet and hands. Yes, it had arms. Its huge wings were up like a birds of prey do when they're trying to subdue a small animal against the ground. It was using its talons to try to rip the top off the camper. I knew it was a demon that meant to attack my family. I gasped out loud. Jesus. It screeched like the name caused it great pain and flapped the giant wings, beating the air, and took off. I was frozen in place for a few seconds and ran to the camper. My husband was getting out of bed. He thought that somehow I'd locked myself out and was pulling on the door. I told him what happened, and we got in bed holding each other and praying and rebuking Satan until we slept. In the morning I told my friend, and she said the woman who visited had fallen into witchcraft. I say all that long story because he told Nino how people rebuke Sabe in the name of Jesus and they leave most of the time. I believe Sabe can feel the presence of God in his people, and that maybe those who don't have positive results aren't really filled with God's Holy Spirit. If Sabe have a remnant of Satan in their Nephilim DNA, they've had to either denounce the sin they were born into or reject God. Some are good and some are evil. This is the choice we all make. We're all born in sin and choose to follow Jesus or not. If God has his hand on if God has his hand on me my whole life, Sabe knew it. They weren't aggressive towards me and never roared at me like I hear happens to some people. They seemed more curious or surprised than anything. The one in the woods when I was with Dad was surprised. I think it stood breathing loud and then said, "Oh, or kind of like we'd say, huh." I think it was smelling us, but our outdoor clothes smelled like horses, and it probably also smelled the dog. It just didn't know what we were. Anyway, just another theory to stir your brain a bit. There's so much more I could say, but this already feels like a book. You have any specific interest in something I've said? Just email me. Norwegian Grandma. I now have 4 grandsons and a baby in the way. Praying for a girl. All right, there you go. That's super. I got no problem sharing that story from you. I believe that anybody's gone through that absolute freaking nightmare that she mentioned in the beginning deserves to be heard no matter what they got to say. That is a voice that needs to be heard and encouraged to be heard out loud. Especially when you've got some absolute demon-like frickin' sack of shit that came into your life as a child and hurt you. And there's so many people out there that have been hurt that way. Right? Makes me growl. So good for you for surviving. Look at all those beautiful souls you created, right? You and your husband. Good for you. Norwegian Grandma. Talking to the Norwegian boy. And there you go. Take from it what you will and leave it, you guys. It's too easy. If that made you angry to hear that email, well, sucks to be you. Sucks to be you. I'm super glad when I hear people surviving that frickin' nightmare. No matter how they did it, they survived. They're out here bravely contacting all of you and speaking out loud. Stand up ovation there. What's this? run-in with stick Indians and my time with the coastal Salish. Sounds interesting to me. Thank you, Steve, for what you're doing. I was lucky enough to have lived on the Olympic Peninsula, Washington State for about 7 years, 1980 to 87. Excuse me. My best friend to this day is a member of the Quinault tribe, part of the coastal Salish Indians who lived on the mouths of rivers. These were warring people and incredibly brave. They would use dugout canoes and sealskins to hunt whales out in the ocean. Yeah, how crazy is that? How crazy. I used to joke about that. I'm going to take a minute. I used to always joke about that. We sit on the boat looking at these huge whales, and I always tell the people just how frickin' kick-ass and brave those native communities must have been. And I wonder what the rest of the dudes in the camp said when the leader looked out and saw a huge humpback whale and said, "Today's the day. We're going to go get us some whale steaks. Let's go." As they all pile in a canoe to go after a frickin' whale. And they did it. I hope they had extra canoes alongside them to carry their balls. Right? Human beings are incredible species, I'll tell you what. Captain James Cook sent a large party to get water and explore the area. None of them came back. There's an island off the coast that is named Destruction Island, which bears testament to this occurrence. We were hunting on the reservation in the middle of nowhere. We had driven in on some old logging roads, then hiked in a couple of miles on some closed-off, overgrown roads. He had set me up on a spur overlooking a valley with a creek running through it. The terrain was reprod. That means replanted trees, for anybody who doesn't know. Logged-off area that had been replanted with small trees. Very hard to walk through. There's about a 60-foot drop-off around 20 yards in front of me. I could see only half of the small valley, but not the part nearest to me. It was blocked from my view. He was going to hike into another spot. After about 10 minutes of sitting, waiting and watching, I began to hear voices. The best way I can describe it is like walking past a playground and hearing children's voices sing-singy. I can't really make out what they're saying. I figured there must have been some tribe possibly having a picnic down there. My friend returned about 30 minutes later, and I asked him if there was a school down there, or possibly, is this where the one he asked about going down and get a sandwich? It is too. Shit, here's another one not marked as read. You know what I did last night? One of my emails, Share My Story, was full. And I had to go through deleting as many emails as I could that are deletable to get it opened up again. And as I was doing that, I was coming across emails that weren't read yet. Now, I'm guessing this is because of the many people that send their same email to both of my emails. They send it to Share My Story and Tell My Story at the same time. You see how confusing and fucked up that is for me? I've begged, please don't do that, you guys. Damn it. Yeah, that sucks. This is the moment where I feel like I should almost delete the whole thing and start again tomorrow, right? See what that does, you guys? It really screws shit up. Now I'm nervous to even keep on frickin' reading. Damn it. All right. One more time. If this goes down as read previously, that's it. I'm dumping the phone. I'm going straight to Bobby right now. Maybe I should just go to Bobby right now anyway, but here we go. This one's titled Australian Weird Times. Evening. Hope you and your family are doing well. I haven't told anyone any of these. I'd like to share some strange and weird experiences that seem to follow me no matter what part of the country I'm in. I'm not a person you'd call a believer or non-believer. I'm kind of indifferent, as I believe anything is possible, but I'm not one to go looking, as I have no need to, and I don't know what I've seen or what my experiences have been. I'm a kind of, you live your life, I live mine. I'm a kind of guy, you live your life and I live mine. I spent a lot of time in the bush working on large cattle stations from the early age of 15. where a lot of the time I was the only white fella, picking up a lot of traditions and superstitions. I prefer if you don't use my name. I'm going to leave out exact locations, as we've got a bunch of F-tards in our country too that don't give a toss about our bush or our people and just want to exploit everything for personal gain. Gotcha, man. Sorry, but this might be a bit long-winded, so I'll break them down in numbered instances for you if you want to cut it short. Nope, we don't do that. I read what you guys type down. A quick rundown on my background. My Nana taught me to shoot. Both eyes open, iron sight. Started with a little 177 Diana air rifle at around 5 or 6 years old, shooting paper. Then, tuning in my accuracy, shooting onion weed and then moving targets, as my Nan would roll a patty melon along the ground. Then moved on to rabbits, feral cats, and foxes. Progressed on from there. Okay, it's pretty obvious we're in Australia. I've now been a pro roo shooter / harvester for 24 years. Long hours, always night shift. You don't have to read this little ramble if you don't want. For those that think we just slaughter roos, as the media and green groups would have it, it's not like that. You have to be licensed, safe, food accredited, and have passed an accuracy test. All roos must be headshot, no exceptions. Each season, the Department of Agriculture does a survey on each species of roo, and 10% the estimated population is available to purchase tags for each species, all depending on seasons. Some species not available for harvest some years due to environmental factors. All right. Anyway, when I'm not working, roo shooting, I spend every other day in the bush fishing, hunting, and just looking about. Number 1. My most recent incident, and definitely the one that has rattled me the most. Earlier this year, I was in northern East Victoria, in some remote mountainous scrub, having a look after the disastrous bushfires in that area 18 months ago. I'd parked my ute and grabbed my essentials for a week or so hike. That's a pickup truck. I'm a bit of a minimalist when I hike and hunt. Same. A few chem pack meals, a bit of water, and water collection items in a bivvy, sleeping bag, matches, my compound bow, and 22 lever action gun. I've been looking for about 4 days so far. The country was beautifully eerie, black, scorched trees and green growth everywhere. I'd shot a few rabbits for tucker over the past few days. Tucker is what Aussies call food. A few feral pigs due to the destruction they cause, and I'd seen some really good signs of deer and a couple of good stags. That night I had settled down, and I had a nice little fire burning, and just kicking back against a gum tree, enjoying the night sky and listening to the bush. This was early evening, around 7:30 or so. The sun had completely set about an hour or so ago. I hadn't really noticed that the night had gotten really quiet, but I had noticed that it had gotten a lot colder in a short time. A white light caught my eye, and first response was bloody spotlighters. Before I realized there was no way with spotlighters, as you can't get a vehicle into where I was. Then I paid a bit more attention to the light, and it was weird. Bright, but didn't light up the surrounding area. It was hypnotically weaving around and slowly moving closer. When it got to around 50 feet or so away, I got this whole body shake, like a spine chill, but through my whole body, and it lasted for a minute or so. Though I didn't have a feeling of dread or fear or anything really, and the fire that was burning nicely had strangely died down / lost its brightness. Then out of nowhere, a log passed across in front of me and smashed into a tree to my side. Instantly frightened the shit out of me. Then I fell into an overwhelming feeling of calm and peacefulness. I don't remember anything after that. And I woke up against that tree on sunrise with the fire still burning away. It should have burnt out. I was a bit dazed and unsure what was going on, and had to think what I was doing and where I was. When I was back to reality, I remembered everything from last night and looked at the tree the log had hit. The log was around 10 feet long, 8 inches in diameter, and a green log. I couldn't see anywhere nearby that it had been snapped off of. Yeah, that's weird because you're in a forest fire area too, right? My little camp hadn't been touched and I was unharmed. I continued to hike about for another 4 days, making my way back to the ute before heading 2,500 kilometers back home. Holy shit, that's a ways. Number 2. About 3 years ago, I was out shooting roos in my home area, naturally scarce of trees, rolling downs country. It was a bit after midnight. I already had a decent load on the back, and a few hanging up, bleeding out, waiting to be dressed. I'd shot 2 good bucks, about 150 meters out or so, that I couldn't drive to, so I marched out and put one on each shoulder. Head down, walking back to the ute, I got smacked in the chest by something. I thought it was a locust or something that got stirred by me or my headlamp. I didn't think too much of it and kept walking. I'd only taken 2 more steps when I really got smacked into the chest by something that made me look up. I couldn't see anything that would have done it, but I was feeling a bit bloody weird about it, and not 1 meter in front of me was a breakaway gully, square cut about 15 feet deep. I had veered off of my track a bit, short of cutting it to the ute. I sort of shook off the incident and told myself, watch where you're going, dickhead. Anyway, I got back to the ute and started the process of gutting up. I was partway through the 9th roo when I got a spine chill, like someone had walked over my grave. Like someone or something was very close. This happens a bit as you get sneaky dingoes or foxes coming in while gutting up, stealing the entrails and stuff. I spun around with one hand adjusting my headlamp and my gutting knife in the other hand to see what was hanging around. When I was facing directly behind me, there was this tall, slender, hairy thing built like a basketballer about 10 feet behind me, just outside the edge of the work lights. It frightened the shit out of me. I yelled, fuck, and stumbled back into the roos hanging off the back. By the time I got my feet and looked up, it was gone. I stayed tucked into the roos for 5 to 10 minutes, regaining my composure. I raced around to the driver's seat and started flicking the spotlight around and driving around in a slow arc. I didn't see a thing, borrowed the green eyes of the dingo in the distance. When I was feeling a bit better, I occasionally got out of the ute, finished the gut, and called it a night. Wow. Number 3, about 5 years ago, I was up in the northwestern corner of Arnhem Land. I'm really good mates with a couple of TOs / traditional owners, mainly hunting pigs and catching a few barra and mangrove jack, but also looking for a rumored small population of rooster deer. I was into my 3rd week there, having a really good run fishing and knocking over a wedge feral pigs using dogs and a rifle. I was sitting around the fire one night having a quiet rum and just enjoying life. The dogs were all kicking back after a hard day with my old bitch laying beside my camp chair. And out of nowhere, all 6 dogs instantly stood up, hackles up, ears pinned, and making the strangest growl I've ever heard them make. I went to stand up, and my old bitch backed into me, stopping me. Everything I tried to move, she'd purposely put herself in the way. I was able to get to my feet and made it to my ute and grabbed my lever gun, a .45-70. I put on my headlamp thinking it might have been a buffalo or a scrub bull walking into the camp. They can be curious when they haven't been exposed to humans. My dogs wouldn't let me move far from the ute and were trying to shield me from what was nearby. They were protective, but they had their tails tucked under them at the same time. They were scared, which is putting me on edge. While standing there scanning the area with my headlamp, the dirtiest, rancid smell wafted into camp. At the same time, the attitude of my heightened At the same time, the attitude of me heightened tenfold. I thought I kept seeing shadows / things out of my peripheral, but there was never anything there. This went on for a good half an hour. Then all of a sudden the smell disappeared and the dogs relaxed a bit. I repositioned my chair so my back was against the ute. and put my rifle on the tray behind my head. I sat there for a number of hours, slowly sipping in rum, listening and looking with all my dogs at my feet. At some point I nodded and woke at dawn. I stayed there for another week hunting and fishing, and nothing happened. I've got a couple of other strange ones that I'll share another day, but this email has been long-winded enough. Thanks for listening and take care. Cheers, and Aussie mate. Cheers to you, man. Surprised that's, well, I guess there is more, right? I was just going to say I'm surprised a lot more hasn't happened. All the time you've been spending out there. I would strongly suggest if you have a friendship on the go with any Aboriginal communities down there, friends, you talk to them. They are going to give you the goods on what's going on, without a doubt. If you've got a close relationship or you're trusted or whatever, you want to find out what all that's about, you just go to that, excuse me, you just go to the nearest community or a community that you know of and ask them honestly and see if they will be generous enough to take you in for a few minutes and give you the rundown. Australia, it's non-stop down there. It's non-stop everywhere, right? Interesting. Now, yeah, make sure your email's back. All right, whatever you got, share it. Okay, man? Be safe out there. Be safe out there. I don't know how, it's funny. You know, whenever we hear of Australians in the outback, we up here always think about snakes, spiders that kill you, and crocodiles, right? And then every time we hear back from an Aussie, they say, oh, no, you guys worry too much. It's not as bad as it sounds. I don't know, man. There's so much shit down there that'll kill you. It's stupid. So my question is, how the hell do you lay on the ground and sleep with confidence? I can't picture it myself. I don't know how you do it. I want to be wrapped up in a bug-free taco around me and my sleeping bag, right? But then again, it's funny. I've heard a lot of people have that same attitude with us up here, or me up here, or people up here that do the same shit I do. As an example, I was in Memphis years ago, walking around. I was on Beale Street in the daytime looking around and shit, and then I decided to go in this place for lunch. There's two cops in there having lunch, so I went and sat with them. When I used to do that trip around the U.S. when I was younger in the months off, I'd be in a strange place by myself. And if I saw police officers doing nothing, I'd always go up and sit down and talk to them, tell them who I am, what I do, where I came from, what I'm doing. And 100% of them were friendly and wanted me to sit and talk. And I remember this one cop in Memphis, when what they were getting, I asked him if I could cruise around in the car with him on a Friday night or something. That was back when the show Cops was airing all the time. And they thought, man, you're crazy. You'll get shot at. I'm like, what? We didn't get shot at. They go, hell, we'll get shot at 4 or 5 times tonight just after closing time. And they're laughing. I'm like, what? Are you guys serious? No way. You guys get shot at all the time? You're kidding me. Right? And they said, you're crazy, man. Running around the grizzly bears? No thanks. You're crazy. They thought I was nuts because I'm sleeping on the ground with there's grizzly bears. And they thought it was funny that I thought they were nuts for going out and getting shot at every night. So it's the same with the Aussies and the spiders and the snakes and the crocs, right? They all think it's not as bad as it sounds, but it sounds pretty bad to me. What I'm getting at is, how the hell, I'm trying to picture what I would do. Sleep on the ground out there with all that shit running around. Or how do you even know when to go get water from a creek, right? There's something laying right there waiting to strike you as fast as a bolt of lightning and take your ass underwater and then dead silent, and you're gone. Except for a few bursts of lung air hitting the surface. That'd be a shitty way to go, huh? Anyway, I'm rambling. Second coffee's kicking in. Okay, I'm out of here. I'm going to go take the dog for a long rip down the road. Load the truck, the Canadian ute, and then head her out to the coast. And from there, we'll be getting her done. We'll be getting more voices heard. Now listen, you guys, please only email to sharemystory@howtohunt.com. Okay? And if it comes back and says the email's full, just give it a day. I'll get it down again. All right? All right. I've seen, I could have cut out today's flubs, but why? You guys got to see what it does. Okay? Thanks for being here. Thanks for coming out. And what else? I got anything else I got to do here? I don't think so. Looks like she repoed. She did too. She repoed the stickers I had right here. Because she was running low or something. But anyway, those Club and No Return stickers that are not connected to this channel in any way, if you typed it in, they are going all over the world. Good God. It's really been on my mind. We were talking about this morning with Sarah. I was telling her that I shared yesterday on here that I would just absolutely love to be at that gas station, the grocery store parking lot, to hear people asking, or friends, whatever, asking all you guys, hey, what's that Club and No Return about? Would that be cool? And then hear the replies, and then hear how the conversations go down. Wouldn't that be great? That'd be better than reading emails. Just having, if we could have those conversations recorded and played here for us to listen to. I could listen to that all day. But anyway, if you want one of those decals, it's in the Sarah's store, links in the bottom. The email, the only email you need to email is linked in the bottom in the description. And I'll be back shortly.